All right. Welcome to the I-81 Real Estate Investor interview series. This is where we interview people in and around the I-81 corridor in our real estate meetup group that are doing big things in real estate investing. And today we have my friend, realtor, investor, John Cook. And John and I are going to have a conversation about a deal he recently did. But first, I'm going to let John introduce himself to the group.
Hey, everybody. I'm John Cook. I'm an agent here at Keller Williams Realty Center out of the Frederick office. I've been selling to investors, buyers, sellers, anything under the sun since 2004. And glad to be here, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Very happy to have you. So, the topic of our conversation today is going to be your first flip and all the details, all the good, juicy details behind that. One of the reasons it's a special deal for me, because I was part of it, and we had a long conversation kind of leading up to that flip about, how you wanted to get started and how you wanted to make your first deal happen. And this deal, I'm going to let you kind of explain how it developed, but this deal, you kind of got us involved at some point, and we ended up funding it, and it was our first one, so that was pretty exciting for us. It was very exciting to see you complete the deal the way you did. So this would be a good time to go a little bit deeper on that. So why don't you tell us about how that deal started out for you?
Sure, absolutely. Basically, I got a call from a potential client who wanted to relocate his father closer to himself, his brothers, and their respective families out in West Virginia. And he'd had a condo that he had purchased brand new, a little over 20 years ago, out in Montgomery County, Damascus to be exact, and wanted me to come by and meet with his father and see what we could do to potentially put the house on the market, see what the options were, and see what the reality was based on what his goals were to get him moved up closer to family. So a couple of days went by. We were able to take that meeting. I was able to meet with both the son and the owner of the condo, which was his father. And we chatted a little bit. We confirmed that is indeed what he wanted to do. In conversation, I was able to find out that he purchased it new, so he was free and clear on the mortgage, which is a good thing for him. Not many end up in that position, even after that period of time, right? People take advantage of low rates and things like that, and sometimes bury themselves, right?
A lot of options are available when you got a property in that situation. Yeah,
exactly, right. And regardless of options, life takes you in different directions. So nothing good or bad about doing that. Some people need to, some people choose to, and some don't. This seller actually was in a great position as far as that goes. So after touring, the property a little bit, it definitely had shown its age for being 20 years old. And, kind of had the conversation with him, about what needed to be done. We went over a few different options, as far as pricing goes, towards the current market, whether he were to do some much needed upgrades and updates and sell it, at that level, or if he were to sell it in its current condition, what he could realize in that regard. And a light bulb went off in my head. I said, maybe there's a third option here. I had been kicking the idea around for many, many, many years, about investing myself as an agent. I've helped dozens of others, and I've got, multiple repeat clients that lean on me, weekly, year after year, for years, to help secure their investment property. So I've been in and around it forever, right? And I'm like, I think maybe this is a good time to go ahead and just jump in myself. What's it going to hurt? So, we were to able to have that conversation, present those options to him, and we found out that, his main goal was to be able to sell that property for enough to be able to buy another property in West Virginia around family, as we had previously talked about, and he wanted to be free and clear on that mortgage. So we already had a set goal, a set dollar amount, and a timeline in mind. So once we were able to do a search and view a few properties, it looked like that was going to be feasible, and we'd be able to see that through. That's when I started making phone calls and looking for, a financial strategy to secure this
Yeah.
property for myself.
And didn't you already have his new purchase under contract?
About a week into this, we did. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So you had a little bit of a time crunch
I
as
did.
you had that property that he needed to close on. So you were looking for an option to have him sell his new property so he could get or sell his existing property so he could get the new property.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because he needed those
yeah,
funds to carry forward in order to close on the new
yeah.
property.
So
So yeah,
there was
we
there
were
was
in
a
a bit of a time crunch.
little bit of a motivating factor there, which always helps a little bit when you're doing these deals to make everybody move a little bit quicker, right?
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah. So I entered into a contract to purchase my first investment property, but I had not yet secured my own financing. So
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
there's a little
Hey,
bit. There was a slight stress level that went with that as we
I
neared that timeline for him.
I can't tell you the number of times that we have put something under contract knowing that we definitely want to do the deal and have no financing lined up.
You'll
But
figure it out, right? That's what you
yeah,
tell yourself.
no,
I'll figure it out.
knowing the track record of us getting deals done. Uh, people even say that we know you guys are good buyers because once it's under contract and we are 100% certain we're going to do it, then we'll work pretty hard to find the financing. And we've never not had a problem finding the financing. And
Right.
that's kind of the situation that you were in here, right? So,
Exactly. Exactly.
so I remember we had a conversation leading up to this, and you were asking me about the deal, and I told you it was a pretty super solid deal. It checked off all the boxes. It made tons of sense to do, and I'm glad you went ahead and did the deal yourself rather than trying to find somebody else. But initially, you had looked for some other financing options, right? And it either
Correct.
didn't work out or
Yeah.
didn't make sense to you or didn't make sense to them or whatever it was.
Yeah. I think it didn't make sense to them and it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
Again, I had walked into this unprepared on my end, again, with no financial strategy other than an idea. So, I immediately reached out to all the big players in the area, the more corporate, commercial, hard money lenders.
yeah, yeah,
And, their guidelines are what they are. They work for some people. If you're prepared to enter into, that realm, then great, it'll work for you. I unfortunately was not. So this was a little bit of a unique situation in that regard,
yeah,
so
yeah.
started reaching out to some other people.
And then you came back to me, and we have a company, a fully developed company now called Jump Capital. But back then, that was what, 8 months ago or something like that. I don't know, something like that.
Right,
But
right.
it was just an idea, and we've been kicking it around. We've held notes and we've done some light funding and stuff like that. So we've played in that arena a little bit, but not anything structured. And after you and I having that conversation, you looking out there, you came back to me. We worked out a deal to help you fund that, and that was our first deal. So that's why this one was super exciting for me, and super successful for you. Which that's why we're having this conversation. So
Sure.
we agreed to fund it, and then you took it down. So one of the other factors was that we were able to move pretty quickly. Like we got it done very quickly with minimal hoops to jump through. Obviously, we got to underwrite the deal right, but you had already done that. You had the right ARV. You knew what the construction rehab was going to be. You kind of knew what the timeline was going to be, and all those things were exactly what we saw. So
Sure.
it made tons of sense. So we have the deal, right? First off, we have the deal we're looking at. The deal made tons of sense. And then we also have the borrower, and the borrower made tons of sense too, because you have a great reputation. You have a long track record of being honest and fair dealings and doing tons and tons of successful realtor deals. And we had already known each other very well. So it made all the sense in the world for us to do this. And I was happy this was our first one. So once you got into the deal, what were some of the lessons you learned maybe that you didn't plan for ahead of time, being it was your first deal?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to back up one step, and I want to let everybody know that one of the things that I can say about you guys being investors yourselves, when I presented you with these options, I was a little bit nervous. With it being my first one, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Could I meet the timeline? Maybe I'll just wholesale it. I ran all these options by you. And to speak to your character, yours and Mike's character and credit, the thing that you said dead straight to me is, John, this is a good one. If you don't do it, I will. What lender is going to tell you that, right? They're going to say, well, if there's opportunity here, let's make it look not so good and we'll take it ourselves. That wasn't the case here. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. But, moving into the deal, it's going to be nerve wracking, right? It's my first one. I have a plethora of construction and contracting knowledge under my belt as a contractor, being licensed myself, working for others, and being in and around the business in some way, fashion, or form for so long. So I wasn't so much nervous in that fact. A little bit of the things that could be red flags didn't present themselves. It was a multifamily dwelling. It was a condo. So, anything majorly structural, wouldn't fall in our laps. So that was removed from the level of stress, right? When you go into something blind like that, it was basically cosmetics and systems and fixtures and just doing what I knew that we would be able to do inside of 30 days. And if I remember, I told you, Bill, I'll have this thing completely done, fully rehabbed, and on the market in less than 30. And we were able to secure a buyer and have it closed with a cash deal off market in 45 days total.
Yeah. That was
it worked out. They're not all going to be like that. I'll tell everybody.
No.
You can speak to that as well, but
you guys got after it and moved quickly. So that was good. And
one time I think I butted heads with somebody, my wife, she was our project manager, and, she runs a tight ship. And, she cracked the whip quite a few times. And, we had a budget in mind. It's kind of a funny story, something that you would see, when you watch HGTV and all these stories of these guys, and the things they go through. And just real quick, I said, look, new cabinets are not in the budget. It's a hard surface. There had been some nicotine damage, over the years throughout the home. So we already had quite a bit of a challenge ahead of us. I have a mitigation background again, so I was confident in those abilities. But at the same time, I said, decent cabinets aren't in the budget. We're going to have to clean and resurface these. And she said, absolutely not. These cabinets have got to go. I said, it can't happen. And I ran up the street to the store to grab something. I come back and I didn't even notice the trailer out front. I walked right past it. I walked into the kitchen. There was no cabinets. I looked her dead in the face. I'm like, where are the cabinets? She said, I told you the cabinets had to go. So they went, and she pointed outside, and there they all are on the trailer. Her and my son had did it. I don't know. She got some help.
Is that right?
No, we got new cabinets. But that's one of the crucial things, Bill, is, I'm sure all your followers and fellow investors know, is you have a budget. You have got to stick to the budget. Thankfully, she's a numbers girl, and she doesn't give up easy, and she's very frugal and able to find deals where we need them. And we came in right at budget. I think maybe a couple dollars under with new cabinets. So it was the right call, but
sometimes sometimes it's good to have a partner, and you have these counterbalancing ideas about how it should be done, and you work it out, right? That friction usually makes it work out just right. And it sounds like you've made all the right calls, and she one upped you on that one, right?
She got me. And it comes up in conversation quite often. So I don't, I watch my arguments, I don't think we should do that. And I think back on that and I'm going, well, she's probably right.
You've come a long way. You're a smart guy, John. So, so there was a lot of things. I do want to step back a little bit. I thought about this as you were saying. There's a lot of things about this deal that when you told me about it made so much sense. There were just some basic things like you didn't have to, it was a condo, right? You were just doing interior stuff. You didn't have to worry about, major things like roof and windows and yard work and trees and all that kind of stuff. So you were your scope was limited on what you had to rehab. So that was a big deal. You were in an average price point, right? Something that the mass demand would be after.
Correct.
In condos, you have new buyers coming in, and you have older people kind of stepping backwards, right? Because they don't want all that maintenance of a single family home. So you had that. You were at the end of a good run of a market, so we still had a good market on our side. Your ability, you've done some construction work in the past, right? So you had all these things in your favor. So this deal made tons of sense. And I think the only thing that we said when we were underwriting this deal was, depending on if it takes you a little bit longer than you plan, you might be catching the end of a hot market. But like you said earlier, you powered through it and knocked it out really quickly and
Yes,
snagged a hot buyer. But even in a trailing market, these are the kind of properties that still make tons of sense.
that's true. I agree 100%. And honestly, regardless of the market, everybody needs a place to live. So, we knew going in that we were going to be successful in being able to get rid of it fairly quickly at, a higher market value, without having to scramble and try to give it away. But at the same time, it was a perfect location for a buy and hold. So we had a fallback had that needed to be an option. That part of Montgomery County was absolutely perfect for that, for long-term retention. It just wasn't in the goal for us for this one. But that option was there as well. So, I mean, we looked at everything up front before even going forward.
That's a great point. Multiple exit strategies is always the way to go into these deals. I remember back when we did our first flip, back in, like, say 2018, we were scared as hell too. We were worried. This was our first flip, but we'd already had rentals and plenty of rentals. So we were like, okay, this thing doesn't go off the way we planned. We'll just hold it as a rental because it kind of fits that product. So let's buy that and try to flip it. Worst case, we'll just put it in our portfolio and let it cash flow. And that it didn't even come close to us doing that. I mean, we had multiple offers and like the first weekend and it sold quickly, just kind of like yours. Yeah. So multiple exits, is a safe way to play this game. Always keep, lots of cards on the table, I guess you could say.
Yeah, right. And if there's really only a few things that could happen, right? And as long as you prepare to some extent for those, or you're at least aware of what could come up, and you have a plan to combat that, or to be able to see, that through, to keep everybody happy, then, there's really, no loss there.
Yeah.
You just got to watch what you're doing.
How will you, after doing this deal, how will you go into listing appointments with a different eye, I guess, for how these things are going to play out? How is your focus on that, like a listing appointment or meeting with sellers changed after doing this one?
I'll tell you, it's changed completely, where, I'd go into a listing appointment with basically one tool, one option. Now, inside of that option, we had different options, based on condition, things you could do, to bring it current with the market condition, things like that. But now, one thing I will tell, fellow agents who already are investors, or if you're thinking of, you've always wanted to be an investor, but you didn't know how to even start that conversation. Every listing appointment that I go on now, that's just another option for me, right? I present it for the whole reason that I'm there. What the seller's concerns are, what their goals are, what they need to realize based on condition and time constraints. But then I have that same conversation of, well, I'm also a buyer, right? I'm here to list your property, but at the same time, my mindset now is I am also a buyer. The numbers obviously would have to make sense for that seller, but if you don't present it, you'll never know, right? And, you can uncover whether you think it's going to go that route just in normal conversation that you're already having as a listing agent during a listing appointment. You're asking the same questions. You're finding out, what the balance of the mortgage is. If it clearly needs updates, you've already probed and asked questions to find out if they're in a position to do that, or if they're even interested to, if they are in the position. Maybe their timeline doesn't match up for that, and it's not feasible deal. Well, enter in agent / investor, buyer, and have that conversation. Don't be scared to ask. The worst they can tell you is no. And depending on which route they go, you have that information, stay in touch with them, keep them updated, because, we all know now firsthand that, the hardest thing to come by in the investment side of this is finding those deals, right?
Yeah.
Finding the unsaturated leads, if you will, the out of MLS
Hmm.
properties that,
Yeah.
aren't crawling with us,
Yeah.
looking to do the same thing.
And
So
agents have a distinct advantage in
yeah,
that they're meeting with sellers first. Yeah. So
exactly.
the best investors, the best agents, they're the ones that will let the seller ask questions and listen as the
Hmm.
seller tells them what their goals are or what their pain points are, what their problems are. And then as you let them talk and you hear what their situation is, you can apply whatever solution you decide is best. Maybe in some cases it's a straight listing. A lot of times it's probably just going to be a straight listing. But there are certain times where there's certain motivations where, in this case, like you did with this condo, it makes all the sense in the world to buy it and get it funded and close it and put yourself to work and
Yep,
you know be the
absolutely.
be the person that takes that additional reward for solving that problem.
I can't tell you how many deals just like this, looking back over my career as an agent with just an agent mindset, walking through that door already programmed to get a listing agreement signed, get the listing. I can't tell you how many were bought by investors, right? Or I sold
Right.
to investors that
Right.
I knew.
Yeah.
Looking back, I'm like, man, if I would have only had that mindset of the investor buyer myself, it could have been a different option. So,
Yeah.
that's a big deal. Any agents that, I know you guys have a large group with the I-81 real estate network, and there's a lot of agents in there. And that's one thing I will say: have the conversation and don't be afraid to ask, and
Yeah.
be the investor yourself
Hey,
if you're
and
not already.
John, if they're out there, they can call Bill or John because we'll buy it, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, so you were our first deal through Jump Capital lending. In general, how would you say the process was of start to finish getting your deal funded through us?
It was a lot easier than I had anticipated. Again, making some initial phone calls to some of the larger corporate, hard money lenders. It's almost a stressful mindset, right? You think it's going to be a grueling process. I don't know what, I don't know if I'm going to have what I need. I don't know what they're going to need from me. I don't, it literally it put me into a frenzy because I was already in a hurry. I didn't know enough about that side of it. And working with Jump Capital, it was the easiest thing I'd ever done. I mean, you guys are clearly pros in the industry, whether it was, your first deal, to get you motivated to start doing that from the
Mhm.
deal that we did. I would have never known that other than the fact of you telling me, we're putting some things in place, et cetera. I mean, everything was just smooth, man, front to back. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Thank you
we
for
were,
that.
we were up against a timeline. I think we have 2 weeks. We had to have this thing all done, funded
Yeah.
and
We had
closed.
to, we had to move pretty quickly,
We
and I
did,
think
right.
I
Exactly.
appreciate that.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And I can't wait to find my next deal
Yeah.
and, work with
Yeah,
you
we're
guys
we're
again.
ready to do another deal with you too. I think you also get that additional benefit of having another set of eyes kind of underwrite the deal for you. Does it make sense from this investor standpoint? There's there's
Exactly.
there's kind of like a spectrum of funding, right? You have institutional bank money, and then you have some more creative stuff, and then you have hard money that can be kind of they'll do deals that banks won't do, but they do have some documentation they need, appraisals and things like that. And then you kind of move to like a local hard money lender like us, where we're a little bit more flexible. And then you move to private capital where you already have a relationship with somebody. So there's lots of options out there, and we definitely want to be um, that provider that's able to do it quickly and make a long-standing relationship with somebody so that they come back and we do multiple deals together.
And I tell you from, somebody like myself on my side, you're exactly right. And you said it, you're a second set of eyes on this deal. You know, you're not only looking out for your financial side of the things, but you're also looking out for us because, well, if we're not successful, you're not successful, right? And you don't want to go into this, only to surpass that 90 days, go into another 90 days, do whatever whatever the worst case scenario would have to be from a lending standpoint, you don't want to have to do that. You want to see a fellow agent investor do well. So it's almost a partnership feeling, right? Where some of those
Absolutely.
other larger
Yeah,
companies,
that's a good term for it.
the larger companies honestly don't even care, right? They have everything in place, all the legalities, the paperwork. If you don't hit your mark, they're happy to collect your money. They're not, I hate to say it like that, but I feel like that's how they would be. And with you guys, being uber local with what you're doing to help all of us and doing it yourselves, that's just a win-win combination, I think it gave me a lot more, mindset and stability to be able to feel comfortable about this, knowing that you guys had looked over it and being in the business yourself for so long before doing so.
I'm so thankful it turned out the way it did. That we were
me
able
too.
to work together on that one. So, as you may or may not know, our I-81 investor meetup group, I-81 real estate investor meetup group, we have a meetup that meets every third Thursday, and we have an accompanying Facebook page that this is going to be hanging out there on. There's about 1,000 people in that group, and there's a lot of people, as you know, selling deals, or there's agents, there's contractors, there's investors, there's all kind of people there. What can our group do to help you out in your business, in your real estate agent business, your real estate investing business?
I'd say you're right. Everything that you said is exactly what it is. That is a great resource for all of us, right? I've been following it for a little bit of time now, and there's valuable, and everything in there is a value add, because you have everybody from all different walks of life, like you said, lenders, contractors, agents, things of that nature. For somebody like me, I look to it for potential to further deals. Or to be able to network with other investors, that may be going through a situation that I might be going through too. Just, a chance to chat, to learn as much as I can, from guys who've been in the beginning stages that are now pushed through to the ceiling of what they're doing, and are just great resources. So I look forward to leaning on the page for that reason.
So you hear that, everybody? Send John, get his email and send him your deals. So he
send
wants
them to me.
Get on your buyers list. Yeah. I can't tell you, just at our meetup, before we even started this Facebook group, how many deals were done at our meetup group. We even actually, the first year we were doing it, we actually signed a napkin on the bar and bought a property, agreed to buy a property. That was like one of the first deals we ever, first deal that was done at our meetup group back in like 2018. So yeah, I would bet that, tons, and I don't even know what the number is, but tons of deals are happening on that Facebook page and in that group. So
what's funny too, Bill? I had somebody ask me, well, if it's full of investors and agents, that seems saturated. What are you going to accomplish? If there's another agent or investor in there that has a property that they want to make available as an opportunity to someone else, well, why don't they want it? And my answer to them was, every investor has, most of them, what their forte is, right? What their favorite types of properties are, what the areas might be. Doesn't mean that there's necessarily something wrong with that property and a reason why they don't want it. They're just offering it up within the group to somebody whose model it may fit, right? Yeah. Whether it's a condo, some guys like ranchers, some like duplexes, so I just want to let everybody know that there's still value here. And that's exactly what I told that person that asked me.
Obviously, you got to do your due diligence on any deal, right? You're not going to just run out there and buy it. Like, well, I guess you could, but definitely do your due diligence. And I know there's been many times when we've had to sell a property because, like you said, it didn't fit our buying criteria. It didn't fit a certain location, or it didn't fit a certain property type. Or we may have had 2 flips going on in a duplex rehab, and there was just too much for it, but it made sense to sell. So you really can't pigeonhole that and say, I'm not buying it just because they don't want it. Do your due diligence and look into it. And if it makes sense, get somebody else involved, get your lender involved, get your agent involved or whatever. Do your due diligence and then make a decision like that. So that's right.
That's right. There might be a skill set that you possess that agent or that investor who's selling does not, to where you can, save some money on the back end, to where maybe it didn't work for them for this reason. Well, that doesn't affect you because you have a certain skill set or you have resources that they may not have, to where it will work for you. I mean, we could talk all day about that.
It's the number one reason we put this network together, just so that you can build your network, right? Put more people in your network, and better things are going to happen for you, right? You're going to do more deals. You're going to learn more. You're going to build great partnerships. And that's the reason. And it's been good for us, and hopefully it's been good for everybody else. So, John, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Congratulations on that deal. I can't wait to do another deal with you. And hopefully we see you at the meetup one of these days.
I appreciate it, Bill. Thanks for taking the time. Guys, if you're not on the page, get on the page. Bring everybody you know to the page. There's nothing but information here. You get to deal with great guys like Bill, Mike Webb, and anybody and everybody that's surrounded by them. Everybody's great people. I'm glad to be a part of it. Thanks for having me, Bill. I really appreciate it.
All right, John. Have a good one. Talk to you soon, man.
Take care.
Bye-bye.